Hey everybody, so I am back to discuss the BET Plus film that just premiered this week titled Karen. Now, for those of you who may not have been keeping up with the videos that I make on this channel, because not everyone's watching them, but that's okay. I get it. Not everything is for everyone. And this movie may not be an exception for many of you out there, but this film was part of BET's installment of what they call Summer of Chills film, and it just so happens to be titled Karen. Now, for those of you who may not be aware of what a Karen is, allow me to Google that definition for you. One moment. So, according to Google or Wikipedia or whatever may have you, Karen is a pejorative term for a white woman seeming to be entitled or demanding beyond the scope of what is normal. The term also refers to memes depicting white women who use their privilege to demand their own way. While it can be debatable as to exactly what a Karen is, just as much as it can be debatable whether or not white privilege exists in society, what can't be debated are the many various video footages of individuals having these Karen experiences. Like at this point, it's very hard to deny this when there are so many video footages out there that clearly show these particular Karens overstepping boundaries and attempting to harass individuals that they absolutely have no right to even be policing and approaching in the first place. And that is what people refer to as privilege. And of course, there is what is considered to be white privilege as well. And I believe this is all just a one conglomerate or something of what it means to have white privilege. And Karens are a part of that. So getting into this film, we have the actors and actresses Taryn Manny, Corey Hardrick, and Jasmine Burke, who are like the main characters of this film. This film follows them. Now, Taryn Manny, she plays the Karen. In fact, the film went as far as to name her Karen, and she really displayed throughout this film all of the characteristics of a Karen: prying into other people's business, being nosy, being paranoid, being racist, stereotyping, being biased, and just overall offensive. She was a very offensive person, as well as an individual who was just vile. She was very vile and definitely harassing the family next door. So who is the family next door? Well, the family next door is what is considered to be an African-American family. And that family consisted of Corey Hardrick's character, Malik, as well as Jasmine Burke's character, Imani. And the family had apparently just moved into this suburban type of neighborhood that was predominantly Caucasian. And so Karen just so happens to be the president of that HOA in that community. Now, and they do things like market, sell, and also manage the community that they are the HOA of. And with that being said, we can clearly see in this film that Karen is the president of this HOA, and therefore a lot of the decisions are based off of what she says, yay or nay. In fact, in some of the meetings where she was attempting to persuade the other members of the HOA to find a way to get rid of Malik and Imani, it was called out that she was indeed a racist. And I just thought it was interesting. Like it was just very interesting. It was a very, very blunt way of showing, you know, characteristics of Karen, all in one character, mind you, all in one character, all in one movie. We really saw in this film the different aspects of what a Karen could look like and the different type of situations that a Karen could be involved in. One of the biggest things that I felt was interesting too, and pretty cool for them to include in this film, to be honest, was the concept of a crooked police officer. And that would be Karen's brother. So not only is Karen a racist Karen, but then she has the officer that is her brother, who is also just as much as a racist as she is. And she's able to basically, I guess, blow her whistle, and he comes running like a dog, and they do their racist 1-2 together. You know, they do their racist 1-2 step together. What I also like about the film, while there were so much, you know, the film can make things seem like it was black and white. it did show that there are individuals who are not considered to be Black that do call out their peers when it comes to racism. For example, one of the members of the HOA who was really cool with Karen, she did call out Karen about her racist behavior. However, her calling her out, in my opinion, it still wasn't enough. It still wasn't enough to stop Karen. Also, to the officer that was Karen's brother, he had a rookie police officer that I guess, out there patrolling together. And that rookie police officer was constantly attempting to stop his superior and the racist behavior. And eventually, ultimately, he calls him out like, I'm going to report you. You are a racist. And it goes to show, while the film, again, can be triggering because it definitely deals with racism, it definitely deals with a lot of topics that many don't want to discuss for whatever reason it may be. Some people may be in what's considered to be denial. Some people may be tired of hearing of it. And this could be on all sides, not just the white side. This could also be on the Black side. Some people may be tired of hearing it. Some people probably just want to move what is considered to be forward and get away from that, because after all, we're all living in a world where we're all together. Like, we're all together at this point. And of course, there are still communities that are heavily segregated for whatever reasons that may be. And this movie, I guess, would be an example of that. It doesn't seem like there was another so-called Black family that was living there in that community. Other than the fact that we learn later on about these teenagers who Karen called the police on, who apparently lived in that community as well. But that's not to get too far away from what I was saying. So in regards to the film, like I said, it could be triggering because you have different perspectives. Again, people living different perspectives and have different views in regards to situations like this. But what the film does is, while it does blatantly show you racism and it shows you Karen's side as well as the Malik and Imani side, it also shows you that there are people out here in between that are not like people out here that are really allies, regardless of race. They are really allies and they're not for racism at all. And they will call out their peers on it, which I'm certain, like, for example, if you take the rookie cop, that may not be the easiest thing to do, considering that his superior kept boasting about how he's in this brotherhood and the brotherhood is going to protect him. And if you think about it, could the rookie cop be at risk? And like, I'm talking physical harm risk, because he's standing up against his superior. So he could probably lose his job if this brotherhood has that kind of pull, or he could lose his life, but he still chooses to stand up against it. The film is heavy. The film is very heavy. I would be all day if I had to sit here and talk about everything that occurred in the film. But it definitely shows you the audacity of Karen and her brother, and how they feel like they are the only ones that's supposed to live in a certain neighborhood. They feel like it's their neighborhood. Like, they own it, and no one else is supposed to come there. Specifically, no one that is considered to be Black or African American is supposed to go in that neighborhood. And it also goes to show, what would be considered her privilege, that she did have the kind of pull that she has, or that she had in the film, how she was able to talk to the management at the restaurant that she was in, her and her friend was in, and it was two Black men sitting at a table enjoying themselves, and they were laughing, kikiing, really, I wouldn't even say loud. They were just kikiing, having a good time, and people were looking at them like, and sometimes I feel like, people have already got their stereotypes when it comes to people. So, for example, this stereotype can occur within a so-called racial group, and it also occurs outside, for, whether it's Black looking at the whites or the whites looking at the Blacks or whatever. And so in that restaurant, I feel like while those two men, they weren't super loud, they were enjoying themselves, but there's a stereotype, it's a stereotype about Black folks being loud. So you hear some Black folks having a good time in what is considered to be a upper class restaurant. I suppose that's what that's supposed to be. And you have all these other people that are not Black, but they're the only Black people there. So they stand out more. And these people already may have stereotypes in their head, like, oh, they're so loud and they're so ghetto and they're coming here, in our space and they're being this way and they need to learn how to behave. So those are the kind of people you can't please, whether you're whispering or you're laughing and having a good time. And it doesn't matter if you're loud or not. Those are the kind of folks that are dismissive of you and offended by your presence, regardless of what you do. You cannot make people like you. You cannot make people accept you And you should not want to, you shouldn't want to. And that's me. Like, you either gonna like me or you don't, you be lucky if I like you. So anyway, with all of that being said, in that scene, Karen manages to, you can tell she has what is considered a privilege, because she is able to, now whether you want to call that white privilege or you call that class privilege, she still has some sort of privilege. Why is it that she was able to speak to management and get them kicked out? Well, if it's not their class that can protect them, I guess, then clearly it has to do with race, because she was able to, get them kicked out of there. Or it could be that she just has been there longer than them and she's really in good with the management, and they're willing to listen to her over the two men that was there. I don't know. I don't know. If you look at it, if it had been two white men that were sitting at that table doing the exact same thing, and the others in the restaurant, including Karen, disapproved, and she spoke to management, would management have been quick to kick them out? That's kind of how you would know the answer to that. And there was a scene where the attorney, who many of you know from Saints and Sinners, which I thought was interesting too. There were some Saints and Sinner cast members that popped up in this film as well. The attorney sat with Malik and Imani, and he told them discrimination cases are hard to prove. And what I just described is the reason why it really is hard to prove, because again, in that situation in the restaurant, how can you prove that what she did was based off of race if you can't conduct some sort of test? And, if, for example, if you conduct a test where you instead place two white men in that restaurant and let them be just as loud as the two black men were, if she does the same thing and if management responds the same way, then does that disapprove that it was racial for what she did with the two black men? You get what I'm saying? So I get what they mean, like it's so hard to prove it. So even if many of us, what is considered to be black people, know within the core of our body, and we've been called a racial name or whatever, and especially if you don't catch it on camera, you know that it is. You feel it. The signs are there. You're basically being told it is hard to prove that in court. That's interesting. Then you have, also I want to mention Tavier Mori, who is actually Corey Hardrick's brother-in-law. He is Tia and Tamara Mori, and as well as Taj Mori's brother. He was in this film, and he was one of the teens, because there were 3 teens in total. He was one of the teens that Karen had arrested by her brother when they were in the neighborhood, and she just assumed, based off of their race, that they did not live in that neighborhood, and she messed with the wrong one, because one of the young men, or the young boys, because they're just teens, that she called the police on, happened to have a father who was a civil rights attorney. And again, that is the actor from Saints and Sinners. Of course, he's done other things, but Saints and Sinners is the most recent that we know about on this channel, for myself anyway. So with that being said, again, the film has so much to unpack. You had Imani and Malik. They were a pretty quiet couple. They came in that neighborhood, didn't start nothing with nobody. And to be honest, it doesn't seem like there were any other neighbors around, because we were so focused on Karen. So clearly no one else had an issue with Imani and Malik. While Karen did have a racist, in my opinion, a racist friend, who may not have particularly cared for black people, she didn't go as far as Karen did to attempt to get them out the neighborhood. While she may have disagreed with them living in the neighborhood, she wasn't harassing them on a daily basis like Karen was. So clearly the only one who had the issue was Karen, for whatever reason, whatever her personal reasons were. And it sounded like it had a lot to do, well, it eventually came out that it had to do with the fact, I believe it also had to do with her upbringing, because she mentioned that a lot as well. But then it also had to do with the fact that her husband was killed by apparently some black man who was a vigilante, and her husband was an officer and he was killed. And at that point, she just had it out for black people. And again, the couple was quiet, stayed to themselves. They're building this new life together, happy to be living where they're at. And I want to mention that too, y'all. I have to mention that as well, covering the aspect of moving to the suburbs in the first place, where, you're considered to be black, but you're moving in a neighborhood that is predominantly not black, but you go there because you're looking for somewhere better to go. This has been a topic that has really been dove into, if that's a word, really dug into on social media, because of the idea of should Black people aspire to move away from other Black people when they so-called make it? And that was pretty much what this couple did. You know, we didn't hear much about where they came from, but clearly they had a goal to move to the suburb. And I don't believe it was just because they were thinking to themselves, we got money, let's go move with the white folks. I think it was, we have money, we want a house, a better house, we have an idea of what kind of neighborhood we want to live in, we've done our research, the neighborhood seems safe, and the houses are the bomb, let's go there. Oh, but it happens to be a predominantly white neighborhood. And if that's what they want to do, then that's what they want to do. But the thing is, it is a it's an interesting thing about this, because I've heard this argument online when it comes to so-called Black people doing this, and that is some so-called Black people believe that Black people should not aspire to move into suburbs that do not contain mostly Black people or Black people, because of the fact that it's like, you know, you moving away from your people and you're setting yourself up for racism, and you'll get what you deserve because you should have stuck with your own people. Meanwhile, many of us are aware that when we live around our so-called own people, depending on where we are at, you know, it is our very same own people who is subjecting us to a lot of a dangerous environment. And you can't escape that. Like, you just can't escape that. So, you know, it's like a catch-22 in that scenario. Because you, on one hand, you do want to live somewhere peaceful. You want your children to grow up in a peaceful environment. But is it not sad that it seems like for many years, the peaceful, and maybe even to this day, the most peaceful environments is the further you get away from other Black people. It just so happens to be that way. I don't know. And I feel like this definitely, you know, while we tackled a lot about racism and Karens and crooked ass police in this video, the one thing it does not feel like, you know, was discussed, and it won't be discussed, to be honest, because I think that's taboo to really talk about it in film, is, you know, this issue of power to the people, but at the same time, when I get some money, I'm getting the heck away from y'all. And it kind of goes to show not all skin folk is kinfolk, and not all so-called white folk is your enemy. I don't know. That's something I don't even know how to begin to address that topic, because I feel like this, and even with this film, this is how I personally feel. We're living individual lives. We are encountering individual people. Y'all know how I feel about saying defunding the police. I do not believe in it at all. My thing is this, and the reason why I say this is because I feel like a lot of people who may be saying that, especially when you have celebrities or whoever, you know, talking that way, they don't live in what is considered to be predominantly Black neighborhoods, or considered to be at times the hood. And not that the hood is synonymous with Black, not what I'm saying, but as what is considered to be a Black woman who has experienced living in predominantly Black areas, that would be considered the urban areas, metro cities, whatever, you know, lower income, whatever. I've seen far too many times where people, specifically women, have had to call the police, whether it be domestic violence, someone attempting to rob them, take their car, etc. I've seen it far too many times to see people say defund the police out of these same neighborhoods who rely on the police to keep them safe. So my thing is this: if you want to address crooked police that are murdering Black and brown bodies, etc., you're gonna have to go directly for that specific group of people. For that person that did it, and for the people that are covering it up, you're gonna have to go directly for them, because to throw away an entire group of police where there are some in that mix that are protecting that community, and without them, do you genuinely think that the entire people, just because they're all Black and y'all want to, and we say community, do you genuinely think that so-called community is prepared for the outcome of not having police, or police decreasing? In fact, is that not what we're seeing nowadays? And I know some people would argue, well, the increase of police have never done nothing. Listen, again, when you are going through something as one of these individuals who live in the neighborhood that I just described, and the people that look like you are the ones that are harassing you and attempting to harm you, and you pick up that phone to call a police officer because you have no other way of any way to protect yourself. You may have a weapon, but it's one of you against however many gang of individuals who are outside your door attempting to harm you. You pick up that phone and you're being told it's going to be an hour or so because there's not many available officers and they're handling a call over such and such place. I think you'll more than likely regret supporting defunding the police. And with that being said, my thing is this: hold the people that are acting this way accountable. Stop with the generalizing. Hold the individuals accountable. Just like with Karen, I'm not going to blame everyone in that neighborhood for Karen's behavior. I'm going after Karen. And if anyone is complicit and or supporting her behavior and actions, I'm going for them too. But I'm not about to blame an entire neighborhood, because somewhere are some allies, are some individuals who I don't know about or may know about, who have stood up against her. They don't stand for racism, and they're not about that. And they may be silent even with their fighting back, but they are there somewhere. And they could be very well the individual that can save my situation and bring her down. So to sit up there and generalize and go, it's an entire people, I believe on all sides, black and white, is what is our downfall and will continue to be our downfall. But again, there's people out here that's not like that. And this film did a great job again with showing us, like, even if it just was a couple characters, showing us that there are people out here, regardless of their race, that stand up for humanity, that stand up for what is right and against what is wrong. And that rookie police officer would be an example. The woman at the HOA who spoke out against Karen and called her a racist is another example of that. So in the end, Karen and her brother is killed, and that officer helped. And Monty, she woke up out of whatever that was, that, when she got shot by Karen, and she managed to kill Karen, which I was very pleased that she was the one that did it. I was very pleased about that, because Karen had it coming since she tried to kill Amani. She shot Amani. She had it coming. And in the end, they have Benjamin Crump, the real life attorney, Benjamin Crump. Y'all might feel how y'all feel about that, because I've heard things in regards to him as well. But he's in the end, he's speaking, and Malik and Amani, they are able to carry on with their lives. And throughout the film, they were actually trying to get pregnant, and we can see in the end that she does indeed become pregnant. And I wonder too, what becomes of Karen's kids? And that's another thing too, that needs to be talked about, is the fact that her children were not on that racist stuff. They were trying to progress. They weren't on that racist stuff. But unfortunately, Karen was indoctrinating her children early on with being a racist. And that is an interesting thing, because we know things like that occur in life as well. And that can occur on all sides. To be honest, the indoctrination to believe that, hey, don't associate yourself with this group of people because they don't like you based off of the color of your skin. And you like, well, damn, I was just talking to little Tommy, and little Tommy never said nothing about my race. He was mad cool, but you telling me I can't talk to little Tommy, but I know what I know. Tommy was cool. Me and him was just talking, but now you telling me I can't talk to Tommy because people that look like him don't like people that look like me. Yet that's not what my actual experience with Tommy specifically has been. Yeah, Tommy Daddy probably a racist, but because, he didn't show those actions, but Tommy isn't. And again, that's that generalizing, and child, it's a mess out here. It is a mess out here. But I really believe, when we get out here and we meet people and we are open to experiences and we understand to hold folks accountable who are displaying these actions, and that's across the board. That is across the board with all people of all races and whatever sexual orientation, etc., age, etc., class, etc. Hold those individuals who are displaying those nasty actions accountable, and recognize that it's that person. Don't throw that on every person that fits that racial group. Don't throw it on every person that fits that socioeconomic class. Don't throw it on every person that fits that sexual orientation, etc. Recognize the person that you're receiving that behavior from, and hold that person accountable. And just know to, with the next person, maybe you should proceed with caution. But at the same time, don't close yourself off and go, well, all of them are this way. All because of one person, or maybe two person, or 3 or 20. But you still haven't met every single person walking this earth. But if you choose to go that route, that's completely your prerogative. So that is it. Let me know what you all think about this film. That is definitely thought-provoking. And it is backed up by various video clips that have gone viral of females like this Karen in this film. So that is it, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.